we're going to talk about essential elements of speed. So, see a lot of stuff being said all over YouTube or whatever different media. And there's really a pretty simple way to talk about speed. So, firstly, you want to minimize the telegraph. Don't move before you initiate the punch and or hide the initiation of the punch with other punches. So if you're throwing a 2, use the middle of that 2 to pull your left shoulder back if you're right-handed, right? So I'm here, it's a good opportunity to pull my left shoulder back. And if I do it consistently, then it doesn't look any different from any other 2 when I'm getting ready to throw my 3. If I throw a solid, and the other thing is you can use retrograde motion. So if I want to help make my 2 a little bit stronger, I can yank it back with my left shoulder. The other thing is to use the pulling motion to help you explode, right? So use that pull, that contrary pull from the other side as a means of helping to get that fist out faster. Next, relaxing at the right times. You want to make sure that you relax prior to the punch. You want to have a tense explosion. You want to relax through the delivery. You want to be tense at contact. That means when you actually hit the target. You want to use the bounce, like as soon as you hit the target, to rip it back. You want a tense retrieval, and you want to relax through the rest of the retraction. So basically, every punch should have a graph that essentially looks like an uppercase M, right? And that's tension through the point of like the initiation of explosion. You get to max tension while your muscles begin moving, and then you're completely relaxed until your hand hits the target. And then you're gonna have an extreme explosive amount of tension again while you're in contact with the target, and then it's gonna drop off again as soon as you yank it back. And using the bounce, that's when your fist hits the target, actually helps with that. We're gonna go back and talk about the tension graph here in a second. So, really, the big thing about the tension graph, that M shape, I think it was Fight Science, the YouTube channel talked about it recently. Anyway, it's all about short duration explosivity and short duration of tension. So you're only explosive to the point where the movement initiates, and then you want everything to relax. And that's why I always emphasize punching with the bones, because when you use your bones, you can relax the muscles, and the hard bones are going to be the thing that bears the load. So when you get that really tense initiation action, you want that to be it. You want it to be short duration. So as soon as that begins, now everything relaxes until I get to the point immediately prior to contact where it's like tensing up in order to make sure that nothing is out of place. And the better you get at boxing, the harder it actually becomes to throw a bad punch. And what you'll see is a lot of the times there'll be an omission of action as a protection measure by your body where you won't be able to throw the punch nearly as hard and everything will go loose. Those of you that have been doing this for a long time probably know what I'm talking about. So minimizing the engagement duration, like the duration of the time where your muscles are engaged, is a big part of short duration explosivity. And then you also want to make sure that you're using synergistic muscle groupings, right? And that's why I always try to emphasize the pull, because you can integrate more systems and more groupings of muscle to help you get through that punch. Next is acceleration room. You need to create space for your punch to accelerate. And ideally, you're going to get to about what I call a 9/10 punch. You don't want to lock everything out, which is why you rotate from the forearm when you're throwing straight punches. And when you keep the elbow down, if you do the elbow down jab like I typically espouse, then you want to make sure you rotate over so that you've got all of this tissue in here to protect your elbow so you don't hyperextend it. When you create space, you give yourself the opportunity for the punch to move. And you often will realize if you throw a punch without adequate acceleration, you're not going to be able to hit it very hard. So it is its own type of mastery to be able to throw a very short acceleration room punch. And I do believe there's a lot of room for training that to help increase your acceleration speed, but I'm going to talk about that in another video. While you're creating space, you can use footwork to put yourself in position to create that space, right? You can always turn the body. I always talk about contrary motion, but you can actually put yourself into better position so that your angles and your offline movement can help facilitate the creation of more acceleration room. And you want to disguise creating that acceleration room. So if you can use cover and concealment of a previous punch to ensure that your opponent's not paying attention to what your hands are doing when you're creating that space, it's a good idea. Next is direct lines. You want to have as direct a point A to point B line as possible, and then point B to point A. So that means you don't want to have any deviation. You don't want to drop your hands before you throw the punch. You don't want to punch at angles that are too far off of your center line. Creating direct lines with good footwork and augmenting it with angles is one of the most effective ways to ensure that you have direct lines. Lastly, retraction takes longer than delivery. So when you're initiating the punch, going through the delivery of the punch from point A to point B, that takes less time than making contact and retrieving the fist. So because of that, if you can speed up the retraction, you prepare yourself to be able to defend yourself, and you're also attacking the problem of the larger duration of time throughout the entire punch sequence. Use the bounce as soon as your hand makes contact with the target, rip it back to your face. And every time you're using that retraction, use all of the effort that you're putting into bringing the hand back to the face to help accelerate your next successive follow-on punches. Thanks for watching.